Blog Talk Radio.
From Winston-Salem, it's Sunday Night Dead.
Having major technical issues this evening. So I also have George on with me that's going to be helping me out, but I am actually flying blind here. For some reason the studio is not loading. So George is going to help me out here on the working the board. We have a great show tonight, although I have to say happy Father's Day first to all the dads out there. This tonight in this show so far, how this has gone is pretty indicative of what my day's been. This has been the day that everything technically has gone kind of awry. So should be an interesting show. We have Nini Grace with us tonight, and Nini actually was going to be on a couple months ago, and our dear friends the Orbs sabotaged that show completely, and stupid me made the mistake when I was promoting this show earlier in the week of saying they would not be able to hold us back tonight from having this show, and we are obviously having this show, but this is going to be a little bit of a challenge on my end. If you'd like to call in or join us in the chat, George will be monitoring the chat for me tonight, And I just got to see, George, are you there?
And hang on, here we go. Okay, now I'm in there with you, buddy.
All right. Are you seeing Nini? Is she in the? She texted me that she's in the queue, but
She is indeed. She is indeed. If you'd like me to bring her on, sir.
sure. Let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. This is a young lady that I asked her today to give me the winning lottery numbers for Wednesday, and she absolutely refused. Ladies and gentlemen, psychic medium and a good friend of the show, Miss Nini Grace, joining us right here.
Well, hi, everybody. Finally,
How are you?
we can coordinate again.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say the way it's been going this evening, I want to say somebody somewhere doesn't want me to talk to you.
Well, I want to talk to you whether or not they want it, and I've been waiting months to do it. So.
Very,
you know,
very cool.
My Aunt Gloria used to say, "Screw 'em if they can't take a joke, Matt."
Well, how the whole problem started tonight is I was going to load. I played tons of clips from South Pittsburgh last week, and it's ironically of all the clips I loaded, there was two that I wanted the most on there, and neither one ended up loading. So I was trying to load them on today, and that's when I noticed it was like at 8 o'clock that nothing was loading on my system. Like the whole board and everything loads up, but there's like no information in it. So I've been scrambling in the last hour to try to get this rolling, and fortunately, George is able to help me out here. So appreciate that. So anyone in the chat, feel free. It's George will be watching that, and looking forward to a great discussion this evening. So how you been?
I'm great, honey. You know, I've been pretty busy. Thank God. That's all good stuff. You know, I've been doing a little traveling. I've been doing a lot of working. I'm building up my center here in Jersey, and it's a dream come true. When I started it, I thought I would just have, a center where I can teach the metaphysical classes. And 5 seconds into the place, and I'm sitting in meditation and realize, wow, silly me, this is so much bigger than just a place to teach people how to open up their chakra points and learn all their abilities. It's turned into really quite a phenomenon. There's really nothing in the world like it. The Enlightenment Center is it's 3 businesses in one. We launched a new business within called Bright Soul Kids for children from 5 to 17 years old, and it's a SEVA-based school where we teach children really how to get in touch with their authentic self and build confidence and awareness of the world that they live in and how they affect, everything, physical, anything they come across, nature. And so we incorporate, all kinds of humanities and nature and psychologies. So that's really, really awesome. And my partner, Lauren, she has some master's in education, so it just worked quite well. And then a few weeks after I launched Bright Soul Kids, I'm sitting in meditation and realized that I need something for the mind. And so I opened up wings at the Enlightenment Center, and we have a few licensed therapists that work there. And we have support groups, bereavement support groups. We have support groups for cancer patients, for family members of cancer patients, for LGBT, all ages and their families. It's really astronomical. It's amazing.
Oh wow! Now, how did you get even in started with the whole idea for the Enlightenment Center and how things were going to go that way?
It started years ago when I opened my first office to take my private clients, and back then I thought, okay, this would just be a place where people can come and really find some peace within, and I can do some readings and, help people out that way. It's amazing how we evolve as humans. And then I started teaching more and more classes, and I started getting out into the world and having lectures, motivational speaking, engagements, and I thought I need something bigger. And then when I started doing trance healing and trance work, I knew I had to start moving and building a space for it. That's how the Enlightenment Center began, was in trance healing and trance communication, and I understood that there was to be a healing hospital that would need to be opening. And while I'm not a doctor, although I am working on my PhD, I'm not a doctor. And it was really healing for the mind, the body, and the spirit, right? And that's what this is. That's where it was born. It was born in meditation and in trance communication. And so it is. It's you could check out the website. I don't know if you've had the chance, but it's on all my pages on Facebook. Really
I've been on it, but it's been a while, so definitely.
The Enlightenment Center, Grace?
Yes.
Yeah, it's so great. It's so great. So that's how it got started. That's how the center got started.
Now, I'm probably going to go all over the place here, but depending on where people want to go in the chat, or if anyone wants to call in with any of their any questions or to talk with us tonight. George, you have the number from, I'm not going to trust my rusty memory today, the number if they want to call in?
Absolutely. The number to call in is 1-646-929-2384. That's 1-646-929-2384 to speak to our guest, Nini, tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. So it's a little odd. I think I've only done this one other time where I've kind of flown blind on a show. Mike helped me out when we were on vacation one time, so it's a little bit odd not being able to see what's going on. But anyway, so kind of going to cover a whole bunch of different topics here, Nini, but I'm just curious. I know people call it different things, psychic or sensitive, and it's my understanding, and the more I've worked in this, and I believe George had said this as well, the more you kind of work in the area that George and I work on and doing these investigations and things, it seems to hone whatever that skill or ability. I view it as just kind of almost untapped sense that everybody has. It's just refined in some people more than others. I'm curious, how does it manifest for you? Like when you say doing readings and things like that, for someone who doesn't necessarily have those abilities, can you describe at all what it's like, or exactly how you get how that information comes in, or how you process it?
Sure. We all have chakra points. If I'm doing I guess what one would call a psychic reading, you're using your third eye chakra at that point, and that is really where you connect your universal energy. You use that right there. Really quick before I continue, I just want you to know I got kicked off of my chat, so I'll be logging back on.
I don't think it's something unique to my. Because we've had the last couple of weeks, I've had a lot of comments of people having trouble getting in chat, and I didn't have any issues, and I guess it's finally spread to me now. So
okay.
There's some. Just keep trying, and anyone else out there, if you're having issues, try refreshing. It hasn't worked for me tonight so far, but just keep trying.
Okay, so what one would do is connect when I'm teaching my students how to start understanding their psychic abilities and trusting and understanding where it's coming from. We open up our entire vessel, and that means your 7 chakra points, and they are your root, whatever. There's 7, and to go into all of them, it's a lot. You would imagine just a little silver string. This is the easiest way to explain this for those who need a simple explanation. It's just imagining a little silver string from your third eye, which is in between your brow points, in between your eyebrows, connecting to, let's just say, somebody across the room who you're reading. And you're tapping into their energy. It's almost like sending the telephone line out there. It's that simple. It is that simple. I know it doesn't seem that simple. How could that be? There has to be a whole thing to it. It's really not. It's about setting your intention and letting your energy go there and connect, because energy is infinite. You can reach somebody in Australia, and all you have to do is set your intention. Of course, you want to ask the permission, and that's it. That's what it is. You are connecting your auric energy, your soul energy to them. You can even do that with even with a location, which is, like remote viewing.
Okay. So then I don't know if, please, by all means, if I'm not making sense here, let me know. But so when you're getting that information in, how, and it's my understanding talking to other people, it's different from different people, but how do you receive that information then? Is it like thoughts, or is it like feelings, or?
Well, I utilize all my abilities. There's clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, clairaudience, which is clear hearing, and you have all the clairs. And I trust. It's 90% trust, 10% understanding. Really. Because if you're not trusting the information you're getting, then you might as well just not do it. Far too often what I find people who claim to be psychics is that when they're receiving the information from their sitter, whoever they're reading, they turn it into their own junk. What do I mean by that? Let's say I'm reading you, Matt, and all of a sudden I see a boat, so you're going on a cruise, right? And I get a really nasty feeling. And not because it's going to be a bad trip for you, but because perhaps I get seasick or I don't particularly like cruises, right? So now I'm associating my feelings and my junk with your reading. That's not trust.
Okay.
That's just reading yourself, and you're seeing something, but you're not trusting the information enough to dig in a little further and understand. So a lot of people get the message crossed. So a lot of, it's trust, it's understanding what you're getting as well. And knowing yourself. You need to know how to differentiate what is yours and what is not yours.
Now, did that take a long time to be able to kind of hone and sort that out for you, or because I'm assuming that's something that kind of, and with the other things you do, the meditation, I think that's something that you actually kind of continue to hone and develop.
Yeah, absolutely. Trust was something that it took me into my 20s to really, really understand, because I thought, when I was 15, I thought I trusted what I was saying. But it wasn't until I had more experience with it to say, this doesn't feel right. And the magic was really in the experience. The magic of understanding is in the experience. It's in meditation. It's in our growth, because it's a muscle, right? And what I know for sure is that I know nothing for sure, but I understand a lot.
That's a cool way to say it. I like that. So when did you start? So you mentioned, by 15 you had confidence in this. When did you start? I don't know how to describe this, because was this always with you, and you just realized it at a point, or did you think everybody? How did you start to realize that you had this skill?
I've always had it. I didn't know what it was until I was 9, and I was eavesdropping on my mother and her friends in the kitchen, and they were into tarot cards, and I walked up to the kitchen table because I was a nosy kid, and started talking about the cards and what I saw, and everybody stopped and stared at me like I had there was a big pink elephant in the room. And I said, I love it, I want to do this, and my mom's friend said, you're going to be doing so much more than this. And it was as if someone just opened the floodgates after that. The curiosities, I wanted to know more. I was testing it out on, everybody and anything. I would look at people and really, I was a kid, I didn't realize that there were ethics to this. I didn't realize that people actually had, private lives, and I shouldn't be invading it. So that was part of the growth process. By the time I was 15, I was already doing automatic writing, and started doing reading in high school for $3 in the cafeteria for lunch money. I was poor.
Hey, I think it's I just you're very entrepreneurial. That was
always a businesswoman, and And so, yeah, that's really when it began. And I started with tarot cards and automatic writing. By the time I was in my 20s, I just stopped using tarot cards altogether and just started using energy. I found that what I was doing in my readings was really just shuffling the cards for an hour and talking. And I would never look at them. And so I stopped. And ever since then, it's just been me and the sitter hanging out and going through the motions of their reading. But what I started doing a few years ago is not just doing psychic readings. I started doing spiritual guidance readings, and that's incorporating life coaching and psychic work, and really helping them get to the best place. The reason why I do that is because people forget that they have free will, and that's the greatest gift that we were given by our Creator, is the ability to make our own choices. And if you go to a psychic who says, this is it, and this is what I see, and I don't see anything else, and I tell everybody, get up and go, because they're full of crap. You always are in control of your life. It may suck at times, but you always are in control of your life. You make all your choices. While I may be able to see what's coming up the pike, it doesn't mean that it has to be that way, because you can change anything and everything, right?
That makes sense. It's kind of like the path you're on, but you can always adjust that path. So it doesn't mean that
absolutely. It's choice. It's your free will. I mean, you may be on this path, but it doesn't mean you can't change it if that's not what you want.
So now when you, and then just kind of random questions that you've probably heard a bunch of times, but so you come into a room, is it something that actually, do you have to learn to kind of tune it out? Do you get like floods of information, or is it something that you consciously have to connect? I don't know if that makes sense or not, but is all that information or input always coming in that you got to filter it out, or is it something that you actually have to kind of turn on and focus on an area? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. When I go into a room, whether or not I'm working, you feel the energy right away. You understand energy the minute you walk into a room. You feel it, you sense it. And I'm sure you do also. Imagine you walking into a house that everyone has just been arguing in, right? You feel that stagnant energy. You can feel the tension in the air, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so it's very similar to that, except we're working on a different frequency. I'm working with people who've crossed over, so I have to start understanding what is it that I'm feeling, what is it that, if I'm not hearing anything at the time. So I automatically, if I'm working, I just, I'm already open to this information. If I'm not working, I just check back in with myself and I close down. By close down, I mean going through my chakra points and making sure that they're closed. Because if I'm not working, that's none of my business. I don't care. I don't need to be in touch with everything. I don't want to. Not all the time. Because the minute you open yourself up to spirit, if you're not working, and they understand that you can connect and communicate, 9 out of 10 times, they're hanging out with you the whole time. Mm-hmm. I already
now,
have
do you did it? How long did it take you to kind of get that ability to kind of shut down the chakra and kind of turn it off and on? Was that something that came pretty quickly, or is that something that you really have to work at?
I had to work on it because I didn't know that I was able to do that for a really long time. I didn't know that was something that it was a tool we can use. Who knew? I didn't. I just knew that this was something I can do. So for years, I was just constantly going like a car in idle. And ultimately, you burn out. You can burn out. And, I had to take a little bit of time off to kind of refuel and get back into it. and I learned how to close. I did a lot of reading. I met a lot of different people. I started traveling. I started meeting new mentors and stuff like that. And they say, hey, but do you close? And I thought, well, what the hell does that mean? And they helped me. They helped me. Although I understood what my chakra points are, I didn't realize that I could do this at all times, not just when I'm meditating, and it aids me. And since I've been doing that, it really has made, really intensified my work because I'm able to rest my physical self.
Interesting. Now, when you say about the kind of open yourself up and they hang out and things, how do you, because this is something we talk about a lot as well, how do you perceive them then? Do you actually, spirits and things that have crossed over, do you physically see them? Is it feeling it? How can you tell that if people are hanging around, that people are hanging around you?
It's up to them. Sometimes I could see them. Sometimes I only hear them. It really depends on how they communicate with me. Because remember, they have free will. It's no different than us if you want to come to my house or you want to just call me. It's up to you, right?
Okay.
So they do the same thing. If, I can always ask, can you show me, what you look like? If I'm in the middle of a reading or I'm at a gallery and I want validation, so I'll say to them, can you show yourself to me? And it's not always like they're going to just manifest in front of me. It could be a quick clairvoyant picture that I see in my mind's eye. Or they'll describe themselves. But I'm open to all the communication. However they want to get the message across, I'm always open to it. Most of the time, they like to communicate through clairvoyance, and I see things much quicker. But it's really up to them. They're cognizant. However they want to give, as long as it's clear and concise, I'm happy.
Oh, wow. All right. Yeah, I was curious about that because, and it's just like we said about the feeling in a room when you, walk into a room that maybe there was an argument before and stuff. Also noticed that when we're in some of these empty buildings as well. I always call it the heavy feeling, but you get into a room and it just, you can just tell there's extra energy there. And I'm just thinking back to a place I was at just a couple weeks ago where it was obvious that whoever was there was not interested in interacting with us. And it's not like we were trying to make them inconvenience them, but it was funny in that as I moved through this floor in this building, anywhere I stopped, it would feel heavy when we'd walk into it. Then it would feel light, and then as we kept moving through into different areas, it was like the heaviness kept moving away from us. And interestingly enough, somebody that was downstairs that was had sensitive abilities was basically telling someone else at the time, and we didn't know this was going on, where they were picking up that somebody was at, and it followed basically the pattern that we were experiencing. So it was kind of an interesting dynamic there. Mm-hmm. But I've talked a lot here. George, anything you would like to add, or anything you're seeing in the chat room?
We were asking about who happens to maybe have, and Nini's in the chat. I also could ask some questions if you guys have anything in there. But as Matthew's going in the direction of trying to understand these capabilities, I'm trying to undo the understanding of these capabilities. And what I mean by that is the things that are the restrictions. In a joking way, we were talking about this with the message I sent you about the lottery numbers or the Powerball numbers for this coming Wednesday. You sent me back, LOL, no. And it's something that we've brought up in topic before, but we never really cornered this animal in the room. And I'd like to a little bit if you're comfortable with that.
Yeah, totally. Go for it.
One of the things that I tend to see a lot of the times, doesn't matter who we're talking to, Tracy Ray, and Amy Lynn and Nini Grace, when we are discussing the aspect of mediumship capabilities, communication capabilities, things of that nature, is the constant, that's not how it works default mode. And whether it's about lottery numbers or whether it's about tests in a haunted environment, I'll give you a scenario. I brought this before, and I'm trying to get more of a clarification, but let me give you a perfect example. We take a experienced, qualified, seasoned psychic medium out to a haunted location. Let's just take, for argument's sake, where Matthew was just been at the old South Pittsburgh Hospital. And he takes you into a room on the third floor, and there's this table there. On the table, he's got 5 devices set up. He's got a melmeter. He's got a K2. He has an ovilus. He has a flashlight. And he has a typical tri-field meter. And what he wants at that point in time for that psychic medium to do is simply communicate, because one of the things that you tend to see when you watch Long Island Medium or any of these other things is, oh, so-and-so is here and he's telling me this, which establishes intelligent communication, correct?
Correct.
It denotes that the communication is at least going in one direction, but normally it seems to be in both directions, because you'll also have at times where the medium will speak back to the spirit. Why in that circumstance am I told time and time again that's not the way it works, or they're not here to be your circus act? But why can it not be explained as I've done? I'm sure Matthew's done it, where I'll sit down during an investigation and pour my heart out to the spirit and say, we're trying to better our communication with you. We're trying to make better contact to figure out the best way that we can keep a consistent contact with you. I'm imploring upon you to be able to cooperate with me, speak onto this recorder, speak onto this spirit box, speak onto this ovilus, and I try my best, but I don't have the same capabilities that a psychic medium does. So if Matthew asks the psychic medium to communicate with the spirit and have them activate each device, whether it be in sequence or randomly choose different ones, so it doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it goes 1, 4, 3, 5, 2, why is it that I'm told time and time again that they cannot or will not do that?
You're the one looking for validation, right? So you're asking these questions so you can have a validation, and you want something more physical.
Well, no, that's not talking about. The community is looking for more validation through the investigators. I'm just using Matthew as an example, or myself, but I think the entire community wants validation, don't they?
Sure, and don't you think when you get an answer that the working medium or psychic gives you, they would have no other way of knowing other than communicating with spirit? Isn't that validation?
No, not to me.
Why?
Because everybody wants the documentation behind it nowadays. Proof is visual or audio in this particular case. But when
that's the scientific way of understanding, right? But if you work around people like me, right, all day long in the metaphysics, my end of metaphysics, right, and spirituality, it's really about trust and faith, right? So for us, we see these beautiful miracles every day. When I'm doing a healing on someone who has cancer and they're being told they're losing both breasts, and they have a few rounds of healing and they end up saving both their breasts with just a simple lumpectomy, that's nothing short than grace working at its highest power, right? Divine energy.
I think that there's a metaphysical part to that, absolutely. I think that there's, whether it's a harmonic vibrations between the individual who's receiving these messages and the person who has the ailments, I think there's a factual case based upon that. But from what you're talking about, there is a faith in this field. Without question, we would not be going out to all these different places, whether it's residential or historically haunted locations, without having the faith that we are going to get better communication. But I guess an point of example is, I'll use the Long Island medium since she's so well-known mainstream, and she walks up to somebody and says, "Yeah, did your father have a tattoo of an anchor on his right shoulder? Because he's standing next to me right now, and he says he wants to say hello." And if I were the person that was sitting there and got that response, I'm like, "Oh, well, if he's right here right now, can he knock over the salt shaker on my table? Why can't that be done?"
I wish that I'm not going to I almost cursed.
You can say bullshit. Go ahead.
I mean, yeah, I'm not going to bullshit you. Like, if you say it, they're going to turn around and say, why? No, it doesn't hold the same value to them that it would to us. You know what I mean? Why? Because we need that to feed our curiosity. They're not here for that. And I know you're going to say I've heard that 1,000,001 times, but that is the truth. Why do we need to see it? Because it's for us to have faith or even more belief. But they're not here. That's something you have to just have.
Then explain why in locations, including residential and historically haunted locations, objects are being moved.
You can. They can do it. They do it. When they do it, in my old house, I'm like, all right, can you just cut it out now? Like, it's crazy. I'm tired of it.
Oh, they did it all the time?
At my house, yeah. But hi.
Did you ever film it so somebody could see physical manipulation?
No, but I do trance all the time, and I do physical trance mediumship often also. So, I always say when I'm working in trance, I have galleries so people can come see me in trance. Because I think that everybody should be aware of the beauty that's on the other side. It's really amazing.
It's I think where it's contributory in this field, and again,
here's something that would be interesting. I'm sorry, because I want you to know. If you and I ever get together, I would love to do a trance session with you. And there's physical trance where it's with just a red light. It's a black room and you have a red light on, and you can there's table levitation.
And again, I would love to. Believe me, anything that I can experience in this community, I would love to. But it's not for self-gratification. That's the one thing I implore anybody to understand more than anything else. It's the aspect of, for so many people out there, I'll give you a perfect example, and Matthew knows this location as well, Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Mm-hmm. And on my third trip out there, one instance was a young man who was just out of high school who was going to be going to college in the New Orleans area, and this was his graduation gift from his mother for he and his mother to come to Trans-Allegheny. The other incident was with an elderly couple, again, newbies who've never been to a haunted location. Both of these scenarios, they wanted to have an experience because they had never experienced anything in the paranormal whatsoever. In both cases, they both did experience something, and they both were almost euphoric or ecstatic, one of the things that makes it so addictive to be in this field. The minute you have experiences, you want more. What I'm trying to talk about here is about being able to substantiate beyond the aspect of the faith and the hope of what there is, of what you know, what you've experienced, what you've communicated with, for those who do not have that capability, to be able to say, hey, listen, we can talk to the spirit and they will respond. But we don't have that consistency yet in the general masses of this community. We only have it with a few limited people, such as yourself, who are so gifted, to be able to, if you want to call it exploitation, however you want to define it, but it's being able to get the spirits to understand that it's an important part for people to continue this field and continue bridging the gap between both sides of the veil, and being able to understand that it's an important factor for us. This is why every investigator in the world is doing what they're doing, to better this communication. And wish we had the gifts that you guys do, but the best we can do is through our equipment and through our perseverance. And that's why I'm always wondering why we cannot bridge that gap and why there's such a reluctance from the other side.
I think that I can't speak for everyone, but when I'm working and I ask them to do things that are more physical, they comply. So if they don't do that for everybody, I can't really answer. When I was last year in October, I was up at the Hinsdale House with Christopher Booth and Keith Age and Laura and a few other people, and I was doing a spirit rescue, and they were filming, and I'll tell you, I was in trance and I was working, and they have it on video, had the whole house, when I tell you the whole house, shaking. Chairs were shaking. Everything was shaking. So they got it. They got it. That was not a chair. That was an entire house was shaking from underneath our feet.
Wow. Mr. Slozer. What do you
think?
think?
I was no, I agree, and that's the one thing I was going to ask is just situationally, and again I'm interjecting my own view into this, Nini, but and you answered it already. But I was wondering if if it's someone who lost a loved one and that loved one's trying to make contact, and that and it would reinforce it to that loved one to have the physical object move. I was just curious as to why they wouldn't, but if I understood you correctly, you said that does happen. They do that.
They can. If it's happened for me, so I don't know about everybody else. I can't speak for everybody else. But if I'm working and they want to feel them, I'll say, okay, well, you go ahead and ask, or they'll say, I'm going to touch her in her face. I'm going to touch her face, and they'll feel that pressure on their face, or just that slight movement on their face. And if I'm working in a larger setting, I'm doing a whatever I'm doing, there's some sort of reaction. So we can ask that of spirit, and they can comply or they can deny, right? Just like you can.
No, that makes sense to me.
They have,
I was just curious as to
just like we have free will here, they have free will there. I don't know.
You had mentioned.
Anyone else.
You had mentioned there's still a couple. Well, we still got some time here, so that's good. A couple very odd, or I should say, diverse areas I want to ask you things about here. But you had mentioned the spirit rescue. Can you just describe a little bit more about what that is and how that how you even come to know that there's a need for that, and how that transpires?
Sure. If you're in a space like, let's just say I was at the Hinsdale House, and you start to understand the energy of the space you're in. And there are some who may want to cross and some that may not want to cross. And it's entirely up to them. You're going through the process, and what I do is offer, the opportunity to, I don't want to say go into the light because that sounds so dramatic, right? It does. It really sounds cheesy. But it's pretty much that. Letting them know that there are other options for them, not that they're stuck here, because Spirit always has the free will to move on, but there's, you kind of stay where you're comfortable, or perhaps it's just where they want to be, right? But if there's an energy that's harmful, I'm not going to say demonic because that's so rare, that's just not nice. You got something that's really just stirring a lot of tension in a home, or just problematic in general. You say, hey, listen, this is what it is, and since we as physical humans, we, believe it or not, are always in control, we can say, I do not want you here. You do not have any control over me. And when you're doing a crossover, you say, hey, listen, this is what it is, and these are your options. And 9 out of 10 times they comply. Most of the time it's like, hey, there it is, let me go. We kind of bring something forward. A lot of times when we're doing a very one-on-one thing, we ask our guides, because we as mediums work with guides and controls on the other side that aid us in the communication, saying, let's help this spirit energy cross over. Can you bring us something that they would trust, right? Because they need to trust as well, right? So
that makes sense.
They would, like, for instance, let's say I have a child, and it's been 200 years this child has crossed over, but it's still in the area of the home. Well, we ask to please bring forward a presence that the child would trust to move on with.
Okay. Now, when you said about the negative energies, then you're saying so those are all basically human-based, though? I know you said the D word's pretty rare, but when you say negative energy, it's still negative energy that derived itself somehow from the spirit of a person, or is there some other element out there?
I mean, there could be negative energy that's not demonic. Of course, you can have a really terrible energy that's not demonic. You know.
Oh yeah, no. I guess I was trying to understand. Is there people in the field? I'm not saying this is what I believe, but in general, people in the field kind of divide things into, inhuman, demonic, and human-based. I guess I'm asking, is there something you would consider kind of a third category of negative energy, but maybe not what people would consider demonic type things? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't know if there's an actual name for it, but there's levels, right? I mean, you can have an energy that feels negative, and it could be a sadness. You can have a negative energy that could just be confusion or just anger. Or you can have someone who was just probably a serial killer here. It still wouldn't make them demonic energy.
Right.
That's. I mean, I personally don't know if there's a name for that. If there is, please cue me in on it.
No, you answered kind of where I was going with it. Is there's more things out there than
there is so much out there.
I at least view it as there's at least the potential to be much more out there than we categorize in the way we break things down. Kind of related to this, so in locations or just in general as you see things. Actually, I'm going to change. There's two questions I have here that are a little different. So I forget exactly how you worded it early on, but the idea that someone is quote unquote stuck here and doesn't even realize they passed. I believe you mentioned something earlier that's either rare or does not happen. They're here because they're choosing to stay, or
no, they realize they passed.
Okay.
They don't realize they passed. They realize they passed.
No, I realize you said that. I other people have said that as like theories behind hauntings and things here. So
I've never come across spirit energy that hadn't realized they didn't cross. I have come across spirit energy that has been very confused as to what to do from here. But from what I understand from my years of work is that when we release our physical bodies and we do pass away into spirit, we do cross over. But your energy does stay earthbound for a little bit of time after that. So you're much more prone to be down here, and if this is a space where you feel comfortable, you, of course, have the free will to stay.
Okay, interesting. And then the other piece I was going to get your opinion on related to it, based on what you pick up. One of the other things that we always kind of kick around here is the idea of someone that is more or less location-bound versus kind of transient spirits passing through. If you had to just rough, and I understand this would be very rough, but a rough percentage of what you've experienced as to location-bound versus things just kind of passing through the area, what would your estimate be, kind of the breakdown there?
The big world we live in, Matt. Spirit is always passing through. So I would say that there's a lot more spirit passing through than just stagnant in one area.
Okay, so more.
Spirit is it's always moving. I think the easiest way for me to explain is that they're very much like we are. There are some people who want to stay in the same town or in the same house as their parents for, generations after generations, right? So they just stay. Or there are people who are really want to get out there into the world and see different parts, so they move. Sometimes, whether it be by attachment or free will, but they do move around. and they can move around.
Now, what's your speaking of attachments? What's your opinion or review of exactly how that works? Because that's another topic that gets discussed very often about attachments, risk of attachments, what happens on the attachments.
That's really cool. Not that it's really cool when it happens, but it's like an attraction. Mm-hmm. It's like an attraction. They see something in someone that they can relate to, and so they ride it out.
Okay.
That's it.
And
it's
can
as simple as that.
And I know Mike Bowler has talked about this before, about someone that either goes out for a night of bar hopping and then does things totally out of character, or somebody gets a craving for cigarette or whiskey way out of the blue. In your opinion, can they? I don't know how to describe this really, but can they derive anything? Can they kind of live vicariously through someone if there's an attachment thing? So, I don't know, if I was a chain smoker and I passed on, can I somehow get,
Yeah, you can, and I'll explain to you how. Especially if you're someone who lives with a low frequency, a low vibration. I think that's easiest for a lot of people to understand. But just so that you know, Spirit doesn't call it vibration; they call it frequency. But for those who have a very low frequency, when you're drinking, your frequency becomes slower, and so it's much easier if you have an attachment for them to share a co-conscious mind and have use of your faculties than when you are totally sober and aware. Or if you're someone who is very depressed, your frequency is much slower. So it's much easier for them to be an influence in your actions or in your thought process.
That's interesting, because I've seen a lot, and we've talked about this on here before as well, of there's multiple things here, but certainly one correlation seems to be areas of activity and some degree of substance use, whether it's drugs or alcohol, but then also kind of emotional trauma or mental trauma seems to have. And so I was always curious if there's like a similar effect there as well, that either that type of energy, whether it's the frequency or the magnitude of it, attracts entities, or kind of what the deal is with that. Because I don't know if you've seen that, but it seems a lot when you dive into these stories and these activities, that there tends to be some kind of link there, or what I would view almost as an attraction between emotional energy and activity.
Yeah, there is. If you're if you're someone who is, and please tell me if I'm misunderstanding the question. If you're someone who lives on a slower vibration, you're going to attract a spirit form that is more in a chaotic state, or more of a aggressive state. And you will absolutely do things that is very unlike you. If you are someone who's of high frequency, you're going to attract this energy. Usually more high frequency, it's not always great either, right? Because what if you're someone who is totally insane hyper, right? And you can't get it together. You can attract kind of a chaotic spirit energy that way also. It's the awakened vibration that is very difficult for them to attach to.
Interesting. Now that kind of relates at least to kind of one of the ideas, or one of the theories, I guess, that makes sense to me on this, and that is we've talked about before in investigations. I've seen this, how some people seem to be if spirits were dogs, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, some people seem to act like dog food, and some people seem to act like dog whistles. That some people, I call it magnets and wet blankets. There's some people that walk into a room and everything dies. There's other people that wherever they go seems to attract things. And I've always, or I've been kind of operating under the theory that is a related energy-wise frequency. That some people's energy seems to sink, and others are, almost like drive it away. And I don't know. It actually could go either way. It could be opposites attract, or it could be, and like things repel, or vice versa. I'm not sure, but that does seem to be some relation to that. As to some people seem to attract activity, while others. They'll say, I've been there and I've never had anything happen in my whole entire life. Well, that doesn't surprise me, because some people just seem to have that kind of wet blanket effect. Your opinion, is that a related to this frequency as well, or is there something else to it?
No, I think there are some people who just can't get a response from spirit. Why? I mean, geez, I don't know, but it sucks for them, right? If that's what they want to do. I think a lot of it also has to do with, one, intention. I think that's a big thing, and I say it all the time because it's true. And two, really what it is, how you're going about it. Some people just have no respect for the work, and then they're just out there doing whatever the hell they feel like. Well, who would want to? Just like, why would you want to deal with someone who is obnoxious and rude, or really they don't know their ass from the elbow, right? So, I mean, let's just, say what it is. I wouldn't want to be bothered. Why entertain someone like that? Unless you want to mess with them, that's, of course, of a different color, yeah, exactly. Which I've seen also. So, I don't think that that's always the awakened vibration, because I feel like I'm very enlightened in that sense, and I communicate with spirit all the time.
Okay.
Good, bad, whatever. I'm always trying to make that connection when I'm working.
Awesome. Well, we are at the top of the hour here, so I'm going to take a quick break here. I believe this song's about 3.5 minutes long here, so I actually need a drink, partially because I was running around like an idiot the hour before getting the show going. So hang on there, everybody. We'll be back in about 3 minutes. You're listening to Sunday Night Dead on Dead Air with our guest, Nini Grace.
Show me the side streets in your life. Won't cut you
that kind of describes my how my last 24 hours has been, a little nightmarish here. But Father's Day, it's always still a good thing. So happy Father's Day, everybody. We are back. George, Nini, you there with me?
I'm here.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Did you get your drink
right.
on?
Yeah, I got my drink, so I'm not going to run out of voice here. And but I was curious here, and just something that I'm always very curious about with people that have abilities is for those of us who don't or have very limited abilities and do more of the experimental side to try to get contact. What are some, based on your experience, what are some things that are good things to do and try versus things to try to avoid? In other words, if I'd want to increase my interactions when I go out there in a respectful way, what are some of the best ways to go about doing that?
Wow. I mean, I'm no
Sorry.
professional.
From your experience and stuff.
Investigator, but from my point of view, from my experience, I think really it's about just going in there and having an open mind. Have an open mind to how it is, because you wouldn't communicate with everybody the same way, right? You're not going to have the same conversation with every single person you meet. So understand that spirit is the same way. You're not going to go in there and say, well, this worked at 10 different locations, it's going to have to work here. That's not so. I think you need to go in with an open mind. I think that creativity goes a long way, so long as it's done ethically. And I think conversation. And it wouldn't really hurt to be open to communicate with spirit and start trusting the information that you receive. You know, what if you were at the Trans-Allegheny and you kept on hearing, I don't know, come to the main, I've never been there, so I'm just talking junk right now. Come to the main corridor, And you keep on ignoring it because you're like, why would I go there? I was just there 10 minutes ago. But what if you trusted that little thought process that just came out of nowhere? And you went to the main corridor and you got something amazing there, right? Because they do try to talk. They do try to communicate.
I will add, this has been something that I've been personally experimenting with, and haven't had the big hit yet on this. But a lot of times when I'm doing a session or trying to interact, I'll just sit there quietly for a while and just kind of, it's not full-fledged, meditation, which I do but I'm certainly not a very adept at it. But I'll do the whole kind of clearing your mind and just kind of sit there and see what just kind of pops up. Now, it could be just my own mind dreaming things, but I want to see if I get correlations. And I've had some very odd things come up. Like I had a whole, almost a whole story out of the blue at St. Albans, the boiler room, where they have a lot of odd things happening. And so I kind of would use that then as keywords when I'm talking and trying to get an interaction. And again, we're looking for kind of verification. I would have loved to have had some type of interaction or verification to substantiate what I was getting, but it was still very interesting regardless on that. So I haven't had so much of a, I guess you could say it's kind of a gut feel, we should go here, we shouldn't go there. Some things have been a little more detail. But even on the talking or the conversation, that's certainly how I approach this. And again, I understand some of these are tough questions because it's not like we can lump all spirits in the same bucket. They're obviously all different, just like we're all different because they're individuals as well. But some generalizations, people trying to have a conversation. And George and I have talked about this before, about, how boring it must be to have people come in there and go, what's your name? How old are you? All this kind of, your own opinion. And I'll get into kind of how I've approached this. But, what kind of things do they like to talk about?
Oh, man. Well, if you're in a private setting with private clients, they give a lot of validations about their life when they were here. They give validations about their existing family that's here so that they understand that they're still a part of their daily lives. They give validations about themselves, like what they look like, their personality traits. They do. If there was someone who walks the limp, sometimes they'll show. They just want to talk and really engage with their loved one who's there. If you're in a place like the Trans-Allegheny, let's just say, there's a million different stories, right?
Absolutely.
There were many people that passed away there, correct?
Yes.
So they would probably talk about the experience there, or, not only for themselves but for others. When I was up, I was at this place in Philly once with Scream, and the space there, one floor, there was a female there, and she would talk about a fire and that they would work there. So she talked about that, her passing there, and what she was doing there, and her family. Where in the basement there was someone who was very protective and not as nice. So it really depends, and you could feel the anger, and that was a crossing over at that point, trying to get them to move on. So it depends on the spirit energy you come across. They're all different. They're just as much as individuals as we are. Now, if they want to talk about cars and religion and politics and all that, not so much. I mean, they do talk about the Creator. You have some that will talk about the Creator. They will talk about the process of crossing over, which is how we learn what happens. You have some that talk about what it feels like for someone who commits suicide, if there was someone who committed suicide. The understanding that there's no place really, there's no destination hell. Hell is having to understand what you put other people through if you were someone who wasn't very nice. So we have to understand our physical life so that our spirit can grow. So that would be hell if you're not a great person. Correct? If you had to go back, think about what this Manson dude, he killed how many people? So his passing, he will have to understand how not only he affected his victims, but the family of the victims, so that his spirit can grow from there. That's hell.
I understand that, and that's one thing I've always tried to do. I've tried to approach it from the if they had anything they wanted to say or communicate, I try to, and I'd say I have pretty good success with this, although I'm still waiting for that full-fledged, long statement, long message. I mean, it's more one sentence or shorter. We try to move more that way as to what do they want to talk about, what do they want to say, kind of deal.
The only way you're going to understand that is if you listen and understand yourself, or open yourself up to the communication, right? Because otherwise you're only going to get little tiny bits and pieces of whatever you choose to trust. If you're someone who's completely open to the conversation, I'm communicating with Spirit for about an hour straight if I have a private reading. And it's a constant three-way communication between my client, Spirit, and myself. And it's fluid.
Interesting.
Why? Because I'm completely open to receiving.
And then the other piece I always try to clear out, and it's funny because I actually this thought occurred to me it didn't occur to me. I had somebody that was taking part in this investigation that had ability said that it came through. This was something negative in that bad person, and we were trying to just initiate some type of contact. It came back, I'm not your circus act. And so I was trying to clarify that as well. I'm not here to be entertained. I'm not here to ask them to do tricks. I'm just, looking to communicate if there is someone here that would like to communicate and would have something they would like to say. And so it's worked out fairly well. George, your thoughts, because you do a lot of investigations and interactions as well. So just curious to get your thoughts and views on all this.
Well, what I would like to get Nini's opinion on is, and again, doing the show for a better part of 5 years, if not more now, that we've had the privilege of talking to so many wonderful and talented people with mediumship capabilities that are able to communicate with spirits. And in all of those particular, and I make it a staple when I've asked this, and I know I've asked this of Nini as well. I think we did a psychic show one night, and I asked all the different ones. I think Nancy Match was on with us, Amy Lynn. We've asked Tracy Ray, several others as well, as to whether or not in all the different contacts that they've made the other side, have they ever made contact with a demon or the devil, and the response has always been no. Yet in the community, there is a plethora, and I just did an interview not too long ago where both hosts and the other guest on had said that they had been attacked. Now, from Nini's standpoint, is a lot of this imagination, Nini? Is it speculation? Something happens and they just make a mountain out of a molehill? Are they self-perpetuating these events and trying to make it dramatic for entertainment purposes? Or are they seriously engaged in these things because of either their frequencies, the way that they are being received by these particular, or are they just the unlucky few that just happen to hit the demons in these locations?
I knock on wood, have never been attacked. I have been approached in a manner where I felt uncomfortable, but I think that I feel very armed when I go into a location. I feel very protected, and if they make me feel uncomfortable, I take a step back. This is a step back, and I kind of and I say, listen, there's nothing that you can do to me. I know I'm protected, and what I have protected me is far more than what they are. So I release it. I release any fear. I don't hold on to that because, one, it's not going to serve the work. Two, I'm not giving them that power. So I will not surrender to that. And if that's what kept me from being attacked, then awesome. I don't think that was my phone. I'm sorry. I don't think that spirit. I can't imagine that they're getting attacked like that left and right. And if they are, then they really need to check in with themselves and how they're going into their venues. So I don't want to say that they're lying because I don't know. I don't want to make that assumption. Do I think that some people exaggerate? I do, but that's only because I don't think their heart's in the right place. I don't think that they're working from I don't think they're working from a heart-centered place as far as the work that we do.
Is that because they're a product of social programming, though, as well? And now I'm not just talking about the paranormal shows, but I'm talking about the horror movies. The typical Blair Witch Project meets Paranormal Activity meets The Grudge. You kind of where they are already in a pre-programmed mental state that something is going to happen.
Yeah, I think so. That's fear. Yeah, they've watched way too many shows, and they go in with, they'll say, I put on my 52 crosses, and, I draw holy water, and I go through this big ritual, and so I'm protected, but if they feel uncomfortable, they run a different direction. What the hell? What? That's not what it's about. That's not what it, so they're going in with fear already.
Matthew,
I can't
both Nini and I, because I have to concur with Nini, and I mentioned this the other day, I have never been attacked per se. Now, I had an instance, as you know, as you did, at Curse City. I have my Achilles heel, if you will, at the geriatric ward of Trans-Allegheny, but I've never been physically attacked in over a decade of investigating some of the most haunted locations in the country. Nini says the same thing, but you have had some instances that you can't explain that have gone on as well. If you were going to pinpoint, Matthew, what the difference is with regards to why you are and we have not, what would you say it would be? Or would you be able to put your finger on it, or would you readjust things in your mannerisms as an investigator to try to avoid that occurrence from happening?
Well, I would add, I don't know if I'm that far from either one of you on these, in that I don't believe I was ever attacked, so to speak. I have one incident in Tala where I believe I was possibly scratched. It's not an obvious one. It was a very weird, 3 like sunburn spots came up. But actually my kind of gut feel, talking to what Nini was saying about, information coming in and kind of the nature of the context of everything that was going on there, it was at the end of the night and I was leaving. And so I actually interpret it not as a attack, as a trying to get my attention because I was leaving. And so, I mean, maybe I'm totally misreading that, but I don't think that one was actually necessarily intent to harm me. Now, the other piece is this entity in the OR, and this is why we were kind of doing the dual spirit box session at South Pittsburgh, some entity in the operating rooms at South Pittsburgh. And I've had very odd experiences there. I have lots of weird audio. Members of our team that have been that have sensitive ability were in there, and they were picking up on just kind of nasty intent. We had, during the show back in May, some odd things going on, and some odd things with one of our team members where he got very ill. This entity, I guess, intended to attach to him. I got physically ill in that location. Now, whether I want to qualify that as an attack or just the nature of some of the interactions that were going on, I don't know. But it was definitely, I wouldn't put it in the D word category. I think it's just not a nice person, and I think kind of to put it in everyday human terms, somebody that was a bit of a hothead, and so he didn't like how things were going early on in our interactions in there, and so he kind of flew off the handle, and that I say that way. That's the way I interpret it. Obviously, I'm making lots of assumptions here on this, but I agree. I think some people see the D word, around every corner, and everything's a demon or everything's. I think it's extremely, extremely rare. Even that case that we were talking about last week, George, where in the clinic down there where we recorded that weird metallic voice that corresponded with a bad smell. That alone doesn't indicate. It could be something out of the ordinary, but again, nothing for sure here on this. One question I do have related to this, though, is much like we were talking about earlier about spirits and people's frequencies. Could there possibly be a certain frequency that just lends some people to be more attracted or more in sync, that they would interact with some of these more negative entities, possibly the inhuman ones more than others? I mean, again, we're all talking theory here, but I guess that could be one possible explanation. I don't think it explains the vast examples of people out there. I think a lot of these are people misinterpreting what's going on out there, but I do believe there probably could be some people that are more attractive to these types of entities than others. I don't know. What do you both think about that?
I think it boils right back down to one of my favorite words, intention. Right? If you're saying there are people who are attracted to that, then you're opening yourself up for this. There are people who go in and say, I am just open to any communication. Well, okay, then that's what you're going to get. Right? That's exactly what you're going to get. Or, I say, I am open to communicating, however, you are not allowed to touch me. You are not allowed to leave with me, and you are absolutely not allowed to harm anybody around me. So, you have to really set what it is that you're doing. You can't just go and say, this is what I'm doing, and hey, give me all you got. It's not. You have to be responsible. While you want to communicate, you put it out there. This is what I want to do, and this is what you can and cannot do. Why? Because we're in control. We are. But that's just one Jersey girl's opinion.
And this is the Jersey boy's opinion. I concur with what Nini is saying, because it's a dangerous field of the unknown, and it should be treated with respect. I think that's a word that maybe has not been exercised as much. I think it's a bad word, exercise, but it should be utilized as it should in the community. Respect is a key part of it. Whether you're going into a residential case or a historically haunted location, you have to respect the unknown. There are too many people out there, whether it's the aspect of provoking or they become receptors, if you will, to a parasitic host, something that looks to attach themselves to you because you've opened yourself up to it. You know, if you're going to go by the rule of the Catholic Church, everything that we're communicating with is a demon. Well, we are assuming that it's not, based upon the docile or benign communication that we are getting, but is it all a big setup for something bigger down the way that we don't even see the horizon on, because we're looking short-sightedly at every little piece of evidence that we get? We don't know 100% what this communication is on the other side. Even from the aspect of the most talented psychic medium out there, there's something that's been around since, well, basically forever. I don't know how else to put that, other than the fact that they're infinite. There is no beginning or end to the aspect of whether it be demonic or angelic entities, but they don't have a lifespan. So they have all the time in the world to be manipulative in whichever way it may be. In the aspect of guardian angels and spirit guides, I think that they do things subtly to make us avoid catastrophes, such as, you know, moving your keys for a second, and it takes you that much more of a delay to get to your car to avoid an accident, to something very, very malicious to set something up to you, whether it's an addiction, be it to drugs, be it to sex, be it to being physically abused by your spouse. Any of those different variables could lead to a much more serious condition down the way of an oppression or perhaps even possession. So, you know, we don't know. We are still on such a surface level of what we are learning in this community. This is the important part, as much as people will mock it. The shows, the YouTube channels, and the radio shows that are out there, and the literature that's being published out there, it's important to start compiling and understanding more and more what everybody in the community is experiencing, so that in some way, shape, or form, be it a decade or 20 years or 50 years or 100 years from now, that we've gotten better at what we're doing. We understand more so what it is we're communicating with, and I think that's a key start point for all of us.
I've heard that theory quite often, about that this is all a gigantic deception, and that you're not interacting with anything that has a human piece to it. But one thing I will add that I think is a good thing regardless about the shows and the radio shows and what we're doing here tonight and the different groups out here, even if people are going to, some people make fun of it, is I've noticed a pattern either in people that I have interacted or spoken with, or hearing stories from others, that in cases where there is some type of negative intent, whether the source is from something human-based or otherwise, there is an intent to isolate the person involved. And whether it's, nobody else believes it, been in locations, some of the most, what I would consider, I don't want to say negative in the way that we norm, but just not nice locations that I've been in, situations that I've been in, particularly personal residence-wise, I definitely got the impression that it was trying to act like it wasn't there. And my own opinion on that is to further isolate the people into this is all in your head, isolate them more, and as part of the whole thing of psychologically breaking them down. So I think the fact that this is out more, people are talking about it more, people can interact more, actually to some degree will reduce that. And so I think that is one, regardless of maybe some of the other things that go on in the field, that's one definite positive that's coming out of this, in my own opinion, if that makes sense. I don't know. Have you seen that? Have you seen that a tendency towards, particularly if it's something that driving people in cases where there seems to be a not nice intent on this, trying to drive the people involved into being isolated?
I don't think I'm understanding. Am I not understanding this? You're saying if someone goes in with an intention of malice.
Not the human. I'm saying interaction with some entity that doesn't have good intentions. Whether I'm not saying necessarily demonic, or what I have noticed is in a lot of cases where there seems to be,
you're opening yourself up to a world of problems, really. If you're sitting there and you want to engage with something that is, with the spirit energy that is known now to, let's say, pull hair or attack or scare people, let's just say. You're opening yourself up. You're saying, yes, please interact with me. You're also opening yourself up for them to be attached to you. And wherever you bring that energy, they can be attached to anything else, right? So you have to set limitations. You can go in and investigate, but set your limitations.
Right.
You will not leave.
I wasn't necessarily meaning the investigator. I'm saying in the household that you're at, that if somebody has activity in a house. Kind of there seems to be this again more than if there seems to be something just not right about it. There also seems to be this, in my own opinion, this drive towards, and even if you kind of research some of these other stories of things that moved more towards kind of oppression or very negative things, there seems to be this kind of isolation aspect to it, and I think a component of that isolation is the kind of ridicule of it's all in your imagination, this stuff doesn't exist, and that allows a greater chance for whatever's interacting with that person to further try to kind of break them down.
Yeah, that happens, Matt. That happens. And more so if the person that they're attracted to is at a lower frequency, right? Because it's much easier for them to manipulate their thoughts because they're sharing a co-conscious mind. Or to just drop those thoughts in, because really to share that co-conscious mind, you have to somewhat be open and willing to it, but unless you're really low. But that does happen in places of a home. For, let's just say, like, I don't know, what's a home where seems like there was a possession, and give me one. I don't know. Throw one at me. Let's just say, whatever. Jack and Jill's house, Jack is possessed by, or guided by a spirit energy that was hurtful to the people living there. Whether he was a young kid and just didn't know the difference between the shift in energy, or he was a grown man who was just at a lower frequency and didn't realize that the energy had shifted, and he now, it's almost like a sponge. He absorbs that energy, right? People who are in this space where they're guided by this spirit, they absorb it. They absorb it. They're open. They're wide open to the energy. Their vessel is open. And they have no idea. They have no idea that they're wide open. So that's why it's much easier for them. Some people who are reserved or don't believe it, or they absolutely will not have it, they're closed down completely. They don't even want to have this conversation. It would be a lot harder for spirit to manipulate them. Am I answering your question correctly?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. George, have you seen that in some of the cases you've worked in?
Oh, yeah, and it really ties into a lot of the times the social scenario that these particular clients are contending with. Especially over the last 6 or 7 years, primarily residential cases, because of what happened with the economy, that people have gone into depressions, fits of desperation to an extent where they're trying to turn to anything and anyone to try and just get out of this hole that they've seen that they can't crawl out of. It's a starting point for anything that is manipulative to start working upon them. And if they don't have the financial capability to seek medical assistance on something like this, or they're not attending their local whatever religion that they happen to follow, they're not going to church or they're not going to the synagogue, there are, of course, very few other outlets for them to be able to get that support. They may get that support from that family member, but that's normally the first combative in that battle. That's what you were talking about earlier, Matthew, about the separation, is that it's one of the biggest factors they try to do. They try to deteriorate your relationships, deteriorate your finances, and deteriorate your family bond. Isolating you is a key factor to what they always try to do, but unfortunately, you're not aware of it, and it's going to be ever so subtle, but your mood changes are going to affect the family around you. Especially if the relationship is not bonded, it's not a marriage, as an example, it's a boyfriend-girlfriend, and you are constantly on the negative end of that scenario, she's not going to stick around, or he's not going to stick around. He's like, I'm trying to get you to be happy. All you do is you sit there all the time. Now, you're taking a couple of drinks throughout the day. You never do anything. You're lethargic. We need to get you to change, and you just don't want to do it. And that person moves away or moves out, whatever it may be, and leaving that person to fend for themselves. Family won't get assistance from the family. You've seen shows like what's the one, Intervention, as an example, where the family is trying so desperately. You see that person almost withering away to absolutely nothing, to the point and brink of dying. In those circumstances, they've given up the will to live. I mean, one of the worst things you could possibly do is to give up that will. And Nini will probably, reinforce this more than anything else, or what the good work that she does up in New Jersey is making sure that giving that person that purpose in life is key. I just had a discussion with my father today, and I won't go too far into the aspect of Mom being in a hospital. Nini, thank you for those thoughts. Right now, but my dad and I were talking about the fact of when it comes to family and support, how critically important it is. But when you are in a dire strait and you have nobody to reach out to, and you feel like you have no purpose left in life, and this is what happens a lot of the times to retirees. When people retire from 25 years of working in the same business, and they no longer feel that they have purpose, they wake up and there's not a direction to go to, that's really when they begin to grow old and die. And it's so, again, critically important to have something to look forward to from day to day to day and not give up on it. And Nini, again, so many accolades for what you guys are trying to do and the support message that you get out there. And I guess for you, it has to be a little bit, as much as you're not supposed to admit to it, but a little bit of a self-gratification, but in a positive light that, when you help somebody and they come back and say thank you, and I'm on the right roads now, and I've got a job, and I'm off the drugs or the alcohol, or I'm really feeling support from my family. It's got to speak volumes for you, and it's got to make you feel so good for giving to the greater good.
You know what? And it's hard for me when someone says that to me, it hits me right in my heart, because I think, thank you. The first thing, when they say that, I just say thank you, and it's not because it's not for me. It's for, there's a song by Santam Kaur called Grace, and if you ever get a chance to hear it, it's beautiful, and it really does express how I feel. Because when someone comes to me with this open heart and their lives are changed or that they have this peace in their heart, I just say I give thanks right back, not only to them but to my divine creator, because they never let me down, George. And, I get emotional, but that's what it's about. If we can make a positive change in someone's life, that's what living is. Living is really being in our very moment that we're in. It's not, thinking about whatever BS. It's really understanding our emotion and feeling that humility and that gratitude for being able to touch someone else. Not because it's going to benefit us, but because it's going to benefit them.
And that connection. And Matthew, that's the one thing that we've talked about when we've done these spirit box sessions, is that connection, trying to build that rapport as you experience at the old Florida ghost town, being able to know the names, know the history, being able to talk to those individuals who still inhabit those locations. Never more present is it when you get chances to visit places over and over again, such as Trans-Allegheny, that you can go back in there and establish communication over and over again with an individual who's really no longer there other than in spirit. But I'm sure that support group still speaks volumes when you come back and get a connection with them, doesn't it, Matt?
Oh, absolutely, and that's one of the things I found the most interesting and most rewarding in doing this, and why I love going back to places multiple times, is kind of seeing that picture and building that picture. And some like to interact, and you get sustained interactions from different times you're there. Some like to interact, like the one in South Pittsburgh, in a negative way, but it's good to know that they still remember you, and they still don't like you, but they remember you. And it's very interesting. One of the coolest things I had happen, and I have this posted. I'll post the link on it later on tonight. We were at Trans-Allegheny, and we were in Lily's room with a group I met from West Virginia. And the one girl nodded off, and she recorded a male voice say, "Wake up, bitch." And so it was one of the subsequent times I'm there, I'm in Lily's room, and I go, there's some people here that don't believe there's a little girl in this room at all. And I have a male voice say, "Yes, and hello again." Now, I just find that cool on a whole bunch of different levels, because one, it acknowledged that he recognized and remembered me by saying hello again, and it was a direct answer to the question. And we had Copperhead on. I didn't tell him the story. We had Copperhead on like the next week, and I was asking him about Lily, and he said that he had picked up communication from Lily that she's no longer in Lily's room because of the man. And so, again, just kind of cool pieces. I love when you have those little pieces kind of all fit together there. So, yeah, absolutely. I love doing the repeat investigations. Nini, I had a question for you, and kind of two sides of this, because your involvement in the healing, and then also your involvement with these different energies. I'm going to start kind of on the negative side first and end on the positive. Abilities of entities or spirits out there to impact health. Mm-hmm. Can they? It's my own opinion that there's definitely a energy component to our health and well-being. I think it's related to kind of the frequencies and things. That's my own opinion on this, and that they can in some instances disrupt that. But I was just kind of curious, based on your knowledge and experience on the healing end and things, the relationship between maybe some of these entities and the ability to impact someone's health.
Yes, my answer is yes. I think that I believe, it's my understanding that they can have an impact on someone's health. Why? Because they're building negative energy around you and within you. And anytime we are accumulating that, our health is going to respond, because it's our energy as well, right? And so if we're not well, it can build stress. It can build all different kinds of toxins within us. It's my understanding, and I'm not a doctor by any stretch of the imagination, but if we look at it from a scientific point of view, energy there is some sort of physical, what's the right way to say it? Because the last thing if David Roundtree starts listening to this, he's going to be like, she doesn't know anything about science. but energy, there is something tangible about energy. And if that is moving within us, it starts to churn, right, in certain parts. And that in itself will start to have an impact in different parts of ourselves. Because if we are not, what are we, like 97% water or something like that, 98% water, our bodies? Does someone know the exact percentage?
I don't know the exact percentage, but
right?
we're mostly water.
There's also energy in water. It's going to interact. It's going to have an effect.
Now how about the... No, go ahead, sorry. No, go ahead.
I believe it absolutely does affect our health.
We had a couple weeks ago, actually a couple months ago, when Pete Stagman was on, he was telling the story about a residential location where that seemed to be the effect. People would come in there and they'd be fine, and then they'd report this activity, and just health problems abounded. Now again, you can always do the flip side, saying that it's something unique with the location, environmental toxins or something that way. But it was interesting to see the correlation between the activity and how many people were getting sick there. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You want to know also, a lot of people are empaths, and they have they're clairsentients and all different kinds of stuff. And spirit can also give you the sensation of how they passed away. And some people don't even realize that that's what's happening, right? I've had people who have passed away of a heart attack, and they get this terrible feeling across my chest. I've had people who have committed suicide in the garage with the car on, with the exhaust, and I feel like sick and nauseous and dizzy and all different kinds. And I don't know, I'm just like, oh my God, but you have to release it because it doesn't belong to you. So they have this ability to give you this feeling as well, just so that you can feel it. But a lot of people don't realize that they can just release it because it's not theirs.
That's funny. We played it last week, and George and I were talking about it, that there's an intersection at South Pittsburgh where I was going through, and I mean, I don't have heart trouble. I don't have chest pains regularly or anything. This thing caught me off guard because I actually felt like I was having a heart attack. My chest felt like it was getting crushed. And turns out that now there's always a chance that after the initial one with me that it could have planted a seed with others. But one of my team members later that night had a very similar, but his was more sharp stabbing in the chest in the exact same spot. And then I never mentioned it, and on a subsequent investigation, another member of my team had a bad problem with chest pains in the exact same spot. So again, very, very interesting. I can certainly relate to what you're saying there. Now, how about on the flip side, the work you're doing on with people with cancer and people that are currently sick and being able to strengthen themselves and do? Can you explain a little bit about that and kind of how your work's going in that area?
Absolutely. I mean, I would love to. A lot of people, when they come in for healing, it's all different kinds of things. It's not always physical. It's sometimes emotional as well for relief. At that point, I'm working in trance, and I'm really allowing divine energy to come through and allow my medical spirit guides on the other side do what it is. It's not invasive work. It really is all energy. Some of it's hands-on. Some of it isn't. When I say hands-on, it's not like I'm digging. I'm just really just lightly placing my hands on the body or using crystals, depending on whatever they want to do. I really allow them to have full use of my faculties. And they get down to the heart of the matter, and that's for that. For myself, when I was battling my health problems last year that it's very public, with my mass and my treatments and stuff. I really never wanted to accept that was going to be my demise. And I did a lot of healing energy work with myself. I also went to go visit some friends that I know that are healers as well. And I went back to nature, and I really grounded myself and used a lot of universal energy for cleansing. We have the universe and our earth is so powerful. We are so powerful as people, and we don't tap into all our universal strengths, all of our abilities. We've relied and I would never tell anyone not to go to a doctor, not to use medicine, but I have to tell you, I've really saved myself from having to go to the extremes of radiation and all that other jive stuff. And they don't, I'm a medical mystery to some of them, but for me, I know why. And that's okay. They don't have to believe it. They went in, they were like, what the hell? This is huge. What's going on, and why hasn't it spread all over, right? But I know why it didn't.
George.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Weird noise there. Wasn't sure. It sounded like you were gonna add something there.
Am I stumping you, Matt? Are you like, holy shit, what is this girl talking about?
No. I honestly thought I heard George starting to talk. So if I didn't, maybe it was the orbs. I thought I heard a.
No, I pressed the wrong button. I got used to doing the yellow button. Mike Bowler is in the queue as well, and I went to go check and see whether or not he wanted to come on or not. And I just automatically pressed host instead of my number, so that's where you probably heard muted. So,
okay.
But
okay.
Mike's here also listening in as well. Mike, you there, brother?
Actually, I am, guys.
Hey,
Mike.
cowboy.
Hey there. I'm actually out at the track, so was just kind of listening in. So, how's my audio?
Great.
Good.
I feel like you're sitting right next to me.
Well, I always am, sweetheart.
Woohoo!
Interesting conversation, guys.
Making dreams come true. Dreams come true every day.
There you go. How's Mom, George? I did not hear that part.
She's resting. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, I know you guys were trying to call me today, and I just really just needed a little time to myself today. But she went through a mild heart attack. She's also got some respiratory issues and blood pressure issues. So they've got her on watch, make sure she's okay. And Dad's gotten to see her 2 or 3 times already today. Not the best of Father's Days for him as well. But he stayed in good spirits, and I appreciate everybody's well wishes also.
Good deal. Good deal. So, of course, you know my thoughts and prayers, and Mary Ann's are with her.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Same here as well, George. Have her and your family in my thoughts and prayers.
Thank you. Power of prayer, right, Nini?
That's right. Power of prayer. You say it, and it shall be. For real.
So, Mike, anything in particular you heard that you wanted to comment on?
Oh, I've had many conversations with Nini and you guys, and as you guys know, my brain changes from hour to hour, day to day, week to week on my thoughts. And I like what you touched on the actual physical ailments, which Nini, I think it can be a subconscious type situation too, where we actually bring negative spirits into us, whether it be just our own thought process or putting ourselves in an investigation like Matt went to at Old South. I don't think you have to change your actual location routine necessarily to pull these in, do you?
No. I don't think you have to change your routine to pull it. What, the negative ones? Can you say that question again?
Well, when you guys were talking about the physical ailments of negativity affecting us as people, as living human beings, that simply going into a negative type situation something doesn't go well at work, out of pure coincidence, somebody says something, you're gaining weight, you're losing hair, you're thinning, you're getting older, that's just part of life. That doesn't mean you have a negative spirit around you.
Right.
But if you will not hold your spirits up, the negativity that you allow around yourself can draw them in.
Yes.
And they feed off of you.
Yes. Oh, that's such a well.
Which begins the downhill spiral for so many that can't get out of it.
Right. If you're
Why
someone
fat guys like me go out and walk the track.
You can't. You know, it's sometimes it's mind over matter, right? You have to be strong enough to not accept certain things also. And you're right. If someone says, hey, you're heavy, you're bald, your breath stinks, whatever it is, and you're staying in that space, well, guess what? Not only will the spirit be attached to you, but every other person who's in that same mind frame. You attract who you are and what you think, right?
Exactly.
Tell me who you are with, and I'll tell you who you are. It's said in Spanish usually. But if you want to be something different, then you have to start with the thought process. You have to set your intentions. This is not who I am. This is who I am. And so it starts to manifest. And once you put it out into the universe will conspire to make it happen. So if you're going to stay in a certain space, that's where you're going to be, unless you want to change it. And the same thing happens if you're in this vibe or in this funk, you know, and you're constantly going into a location or a home that has this energy already in there. You have to acknowledge, hey, at some point, do I want to continue feeling this way? What's going on? Why is it every time I go home, I'm feeling the heavy? I'm not happy. I'm depressed. But I leave my house and everything's amazing? Like, if you're an awakened being or you have some sort of knowledge, you're going to start to put this together. Or if you're investigating and you start to realize that perhaps you need to do something to almost like rejuvenate that. You have to give yourself a jump start again. Sometimes it's a matter of really just cleansing yourself. And I don't mean throw yourself in holy water. It's really just like a spiritual cleanse.
Well, and Nini, like on your suggestion for me, and Matt and George, both of you guys know that I've had issues of going out in public and feeling drained from people around me, that I've learned to turn that around, that I will now drain the room, pull their energy to me if I feel I need to. And it works. You just simply shut it down and say that I feel fine, and you bet I've reversed it on everybody, put a room to sleep in a heartbeat.
That's right. Closing down is the power that you have.
It's interesting in that I've run into a number of people in the past year that have this philosophy, and I've started to adopt it. It's still a work in progress, but I really like it. Where the idea that if you surround yourself with positive things, you'll feed more off positive energy. If you surround yourself with negative things, you're inviting negative. And so I totally see that, and I've seen a difference personally in doing this, and it makes sense. Even if it's things that seem to be, subtle and harmless, the more kind of negative down stuff you put into your mind from various, outlets, the more it's, I think it to your point, whether it's actually lowering your frequency or whatever it's doing, I think it does invite more negativity upon you. So I totally agree with that.
The closing down process it's like magic. It's your control. It's your control of everything, really, even people around you. If you have people who are, like psychic vampires, well, if you're closed, they can't penetrate that because you have got your auric field so tight. You are a vault. And I don't know if you guys know this, but you are always in control of how much you can expand your auric field, right? If you're happy and life is great and you're in a great state, usually our fields are a little bit larger. They're further away. I think we can go about 10 feet out. But if you're scared, it's a little bit, it's much closer to you. And the closing down process does just that. It's like, it's a vault. They can't penetrate it. You're not allowing something to get into you or your business.
Awesome. We are rapidly winding down here, so I want to thank you so much, Nini, for being on tonight. Can you, for the listeners, anyone who wants to get in touch with you or learn more about the Enlightenment Center, can you let us know the contact information?
Totally. It's www.theenlightenmentcentercntr.com, or check me out the Facebook. It's Facebook /The Enlightenment Center, Facebook / Nini Grace, or just give us a call, 732-940-5683. Yes, that's it. And then on there usually has all our upcoming services and stuff like that, which is really amazing.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We'd love to have you back on in the future.
Thank you, guys. I will speak to you soon.
Thank you.
I'll be on Wednesday, right? Am I on Wednesday or the 26th? The 26th. I got this. Bye, guys. Take care.
See ya. Thank you.
Bye.
George and Mike, what do you have up tomorrow night?
Well, we're going to be talking to Mike Bowler direct from his ambulance. I heard his ride showing up while he was on the track tonight.
Busy night out here in Crowley, Texas. The rednecks are winding down.
I don't know. We're making this up as we go along.
Matt, we do have a really special episode this Wednesday that Chris Medina's worked very hard on, the GHI Ghost Hunters International reunion show, since they've been canceled. Barry Fitzgerald, Scott Timperman, Paul Bradford, Susan Slaughter, and Joe Chin, all 5 on Kool-Aid.
Oh, that'll be awesome. That'll be awesome. Everybody check that out. That's on Wednesday night. That is 9 Eastern time as well, correct, Mike?
Correct. 2-hour show.
All right. Be sure to check that out. Next week we have of our most popular show, author Luann Jolly, who was here in October playing some pretty interesting clips, is going to be back on next week, so be sure to check that out. George and Mike, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
Thank you, buddy.
You bet.
And we'll see everybody next week. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Night, buddy.